Hi guys, Squirrel here. What on earth am I doing? I'm in a plane. Look at this. I'm actually at Gatwick. Or was it Heathrow? I can't remember. I think it was Gatwick. It's a cold January morning. We're going to see some beautiful sights today. I am very much just learning this game. You may have seen me stream it, I don't know, but I have been streaming it. I only picked it up a couple of weeks ago. Got myself a £30 Thrustmaster HOTAS, which is a joystick thruster thing. And yeah, since then I've been learning to fly planes and jets and crikey, you know, honestly, I'm so confused, but I'm learning quickly thanks to some amazing help from some guys. Let me just show you what I can do. Just watch this. I can bring up the lights and I can turn on the panel lights. That's it. Game over. End of video. But it's just brilliant. The detail in this, it's like another level up from some of the other sim games I've been playing. So, you know, you've got Euro Truck, which is beautiful graphics, really great fun. Physics not that realistic. And you move up to sort of Train Simulator, where you've got a lot more controls to deal with. But the graphics aren't as good. And then you've got this, where it's an old game, essentially. It's a 2006 game. Graphics can be a bit ropey unless you install lots and lots of add-ons, which cost quite a few quid, but then they bring the game up to a pretty decent level. But underneath it is a pretty decent simulation engine. You have got X-Plane, which is a 64-bit version. This is only 32-bit, because like I say, it's 2006 I think they stopped developing this. But in terms of the scenery you can get, it's just incredible. And the add-ons and the kits people have done, the texture packs. Anyway, I've been playing around with some of these buttons, so let's turn the panel lights back on for a second. Anti-ice, and yeah, it's January, so anti-ice I'm going to put on. Although it's raining outside, so no, let's not do that. What do we want to do? So we want to go down to... No, we want to go over to... Here. I want to program in the frequency. We're going to be flying up to Birmingham today, so a short trip from Gatwick up to Birmingham. I happen to know that the frequency of the ILS in Birmingham is 110.1. Oh, sorry, 110.10. It's roughly how these people seem to say things. And I'm going to tune that in later by pressing that button, but not just yet. For now, what I want to do, we're going to have a cruising altitude of 12,000. So this is essentially the auto panel, yeah? And if you pay attention to this number, this pink number here, as I turn the dial, I'm going to program that into 12,000, which is going to be our cruising altitude. So when we get up there, I'm going to engage autopilot, and it's going to take us up to 12,000 and hold us steady. The speed, we're going to do about 250 knots, knots being nautical miles per hour, which is different to a standard mile. But not by much. I think 1 nautical mile is 1.15 standard miles or something like that. But anyway, because basically ships and planes all deal in nautical miles, which if you read up on a bit of the theory, it's kind of interesting, and you realise why. Right, what else do we want? So GPS, right, if we bring up GPS, shift 3, you'll see what a EGKK, which is the code for... Are we in Heathrow or Gatwick? You got me thinking now. I can't remember. Honestly can't remember. But that is a waypoint. I set a couple of waypoints. So EGBB is Birmingham. This is Birmingham in the UK, by the way, not Birmingham in the US. I'm flying in the UK today. We've got some messages there. Inside the airspace, well done. 108 nautical miles for the complete route, but I've got a couple of waypoints on the way to navigators. The pink line there, that is the GPS to the next point, which is this one here, D269T. So when I engage autopilot and engage the GPS, it's going to fly us towards the next waypoint, basically. And we're taking off on this runway, which I think is 27 left. So that means we're taking off at 270 degrees, which is basically west. Now, if you can kind of turn your head to the right a minute, you can see this is the UK. And we are taking off in a westerly direction, which is 270. And I'm going to be turning north. You can sort of, if I zoom back in a little bit. Come on, draw some stuff. Going to draw some lines. There we go. We're going to take off west and we're going to turn right. And then we're going to go on a northerly course until we reach Birmingham, and then we're going to try and do a landing. Like I say, it's dawn, and it's absolutely... You're going to see some beautiful scenery, honestly, guys. When we get up in the sky, you just see what happens. First thing I'm going to do is tune into ground, like that. And request IFR clearance.
Bombardier November 45 Lima Romeo. IFR to Birmingham, ready to copy. Bombardier November 45 Lima Romeo.
Runway heading, maintain 12,000.
Fly runway heading, climb and maintain 12,000.
I'm just getting clearance for takeoff now.
118.905, squawk 3272.
Okay, read back.
Bombardier November 45 Lima Romeo.
So we're all good. So now I'm going to pre-flight checks. We're going to put the flaps on. Pay attention down here. I'm going to get a better view. So I put the flaps. You see this? So flaps at 20, which are takeoff flaps approximately in this Learjet. Okay, we could tune into Gatwick, but I'm not going to request taxi. So we're just going to take off. We've been cleared for takeoff. That's the main thing. So here we go. So I'm going to apply medium thrust now. And then as we pick up speed, I'm going to start to move up towards a full thrust. There we go. Just gently ease the power in. And it starts to go to the left. I think it's a crosswind, I'm not sure. So I'm turning the rudder to the right, just to keep us on a straight course. Every plane has a different rotation speed. The rotation speed is the speed at which you pull back on the throttle and rotate the aircraft for a takeoff. So you want to take off gently at first, like that. Now we can level off. There we go, and we are airborne. Now I'm going to put landing gear up, like that. Look at that dawn takeoff. Absolutely love it. Okay, let's bring up the GPS and we see we need to head right slightly. So I'm going to engage a bank to the right. Back off on the throttle a little bit. There we go. Let's just shut that up. Right. So you can see here is our altitude, 5,000 feet. This is our speed, our airspeed. There is a difference between airspeed and ground speed, but I'll not explain that right now. And we're just basically climbing at the moment. I'm going to climb up and then I'm going to engage the autopilot. But at the moment I'm just taking us roughly towards our heading. Like so. And that's what it looks like outside. Starting to look pretty fantastic, huh? Absolutely wicked scenery. Okay, so let's go back to the control panel here. And I'm going to engage the GPS navigation autopilot. Okay, so that should now bring us on a course with our GPS. You see it's banking us left to aim for that waypoint. It should also set our speed to 250, there we go. And it should bring our altitude up to our designated altitude, which is 12,000. So it should start to climb, take us airborne. The one thing I didn't do, which I should have done, I'm going to turn the panel lights off now. One thing I should have done was engage the seatbelt sign before I took off. That was my bad. I mean, it's all aesthetics. There's not really any people in the back of this aircraft, but, you know. We're going to wait till we get up above about 10,000, then we'll turn the seatbelt sign off. We're climbing now. We're 7,200. And that is pretty much that for now. Let's just double check I've got everything on. Flight director is on. GPS. I'm not convinced we're heading towards our 12,000, heading 360. GPS is on. I'm just wondering if I've got something wrong here. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Why is it not drawing the GPS? Everything was going so well. There we go. Yes, we are on our correct vector for the next waypoint. If I zoom out slightly. I don't know why it doesn't. There we go. So when we reach this waypoint, it should change to. It's a little bit like TomTom, saying I want to go from London to Birmingham, but on the way I want to go via Oxford or whatever. It's essentially what we're doing. So it's going to route us to one place and then take us to the next one. But while we're doing that, if I just turn off, I need to turn off an add-on a second. I'm going to disable the camera add-on, and then I can show you around the aircraft. Look at this scenery, guys. Seriously. Seriously, look at that. That is a dawn takeoff. Now, I'm using an add-on which cost about £50 or something. I'm using a few, actually. There's a cloud add-on which gives you these wonderful realistic clouds. And then there's another add-on here which has given us some pretty amazing scenery. And essentially the texture packs which install into the top of your basic flight simulator. This is FSX Gold is what I bought. Cost about £15, I think. Be warned though, don't just go installing it and expecting it to look like this. There are quite a few tweaks which you have to do to the configuration and installing some packs to get it to look like this. And I've had a lot of help to get me there, but as you can see, the results are worth it. I mean, seriously, when it rains and stuff, oh, and you get snow, all the elements, you can have really turbulent rainy weather. Or we can do this, just flying above the cloud line. When we come down into Birmingham, you know, it could be chucking it down with rain. We really don't know what the weather's going to be doing. But we're going to find ourselves flying through cloud probably at some point. And it can be interesting trying to land an aircraft at that point. So that's a chase cam view. And here you can just kind of look around from the outside. If you hold spacebar back down, I'm pressing S to cycle through the different views. If I put the add-on back on now. So this is a camera add-on, and what you can do is you can program it. If I press that button here, that's back in the cockpit. Look at that night sky. So when I press different buttons, I can program it to go to different camera views like this, and like this. You don't need all of them because if you press the Shift 3, for example, that's GPS. Shift 4 brings up, you can see the thrust controls. 5 bringing up, what's this, trim settings. 6 is bringing up fuel. 7 is bringing up the start button, ignition. 8's bringing up all the electrical controls, and 1 is, that's the primary flight display. That works in most aircraft, Shift 1. It takes you straight into to look at the whole, everything that you need. This is the primary flight display here. Just to briefly explain, this is your current speed. That's our target speed. So for some reason, there we go. I'm being an idiot and I didn't engage. You see that? I didn't tell the autopilot to take us to our flight speed of 250. So now it's accelerating us forward. That's my mistake. Which means it'll take longer to get there. So I'll go through the rest of this in a second. You can see the waypoints coming up. The ETE is the estimated time of not arrival. I'm not sure what E stands for, but basically what it's saying is at the current speed, it's going to take us 5 minutes to reach this waypoint here, which is 15 nautical miles away. So the altitude explained, that's the target altitude of 12,000. You can see we're just coming up to our target altitude now. This is the vertical speed. I probably should have adjusted that. What that is if you set target altitude, it's how quickly do you want it to get there. That's essentially what that is. Why is it flying above our target altitude now? I'm sure I engaged that. I'm sure I engaged that altitude. Like I say, I am very much learning how to do this, so you will have to bear with me as I learn, or you can learn with me, but don't be too critical. I've had this game a couple of weeks. I've done about 8 flights, I think. Maybe more, maybe about 10 flights actually, all in different aircraft. And this is my second go in the Learjet. I've been flying 737s, 767s, Cessnas, even had helicopters. And I've moved the difficulty up from easy to medium, so it's a bit more challenging for me. But yeah, this is our current altitude, target altitude, current speed, target speed. This is our attitude indicator, as it's called. These markings here, 1020 and 1020, they are degrees. If you like, that's the sky, that's the ground, that's the horizon. Our plane is flying level at the moment along this horizon line. If I was to pull back on the stick, we'd start to climb, and that would be a 10-degree climb and a 20-degree climb, and obviously a 10-degree descent and a 20-degree descent. That's what that is, and obviously if I turn the aircraft, you're going to see that horizon turn and bank as we bank the aircraft. It's literally following what you see outside there. with the sky, the ground and the horizon. It's just that. That's all it is. And again, this is the vertical climb and descend rate as well. So this is telling you basically what the plane is doing. This is all your comms down here. A lot of this stuff here I don't fully understand yet. Obviously you've got your fuel, you've got your flaps and so on, your trim, rudder. If I was using a rudder with my feet, but if I'm twisting my joystick to get the rudder, and this is telling me the position of my rudder. Not sure about all this stuff. I think this is all fuel and oil and all that kind of thing. Not paying too much attention to that. That is essentially the basics of what we're looking at the moment. There are camera angles to go out the window. Let me show you that. If I do, what is it? Tower, no, aircraft, left wing, like that. There's the wing view. It's kind of cool. Aircraft right wing. Tail we've been looking at. Not much point in looking at the runway approach yet because we're nowhere near a runway. But we can go for spots like that, or we can go for a locked spot. Personally, I like the flyby. Where's the flyby? This one. Watch this. Depending on when you did this, you could see some beautiful scenery. You see the sun there, look at that. It's like a telephoto lens from a distance. You notice the audio levels change as well as it does the flyby. And then you've got the top down. So you can see the scenery underneath this. It's looking pretty good. All the lights are still on because it's still the dawn. And right, so we're banking. You can see why we're banking now. It's going to bring us around to the our next waypoint, WP1, 53 nautical miles to the next waypoint. So pretty much you can leave it at this point. It will do it all for you, or you could of course just fly manually. You can tune into the different airports if you want to. You can even change your flight plan if you decide you want to land at a nearer airport. That's perfectly fine. You may be thinking this is quite loud. You can actually press the Q key. Q key just kills all the sound. Unfortunately, it also kills all of this comms as well, so you can't just turn the engine sound down. There are options up here to turn the engine sound down, but it doesn't seem to do anything, and I haven't worked it out yet, but literally, you can crank it down to 10%, you can even turn the engine off completely sound, and you can still hear the engines like that. Not quite worked it out yet. So, the planes that you get with Flight Simulator by default are decent enough. They're not fantastic, but they're good enough to get you going. There's no doubt about that. You can splash out on much more detailed aircraft, and by detailed I mean seriously detailed. Like to the point where you could train on one of these things with all the buttons, all the pre-flight checks, getting the engine startup procedures right. It is properly a sim, this one. Some of the planes, though, do cost a lot of money. I mean, I've seen planes for $70 for a detailed 737. $70 for one plane. I mean, you thought train sim was bad with a train, but this thing is on another level. But there are plenty of aircraft you can get for sort of 25, or even down to in sales you can get them for 5. I mean, I picked up a Comet aircraft for £5 in a sale, which is kind of cool. Let's have a look at the... Let's just disable the camera a second and go and have a look outside. Let's get a look at that cloud down there. If there was ever a reason to be a pilot, this is it. Views like that. Views like that would be the reason I would be a pilot. It's just... I don't know. You just can't see the Earth like that any other way. You've got to get in a plane. To get above the clouds, to see the sunrise. Just magnificent. The colour as well. And also, you can fly, the real appeal to this game is the fact that you can just fly anywhere in the world. You know, I flew... It's a very strange flyby. You know, I've flown... let's turn the engine off a second. I've flown from San Francisco, I think it was, down to Los Angeles Airport in a stream. Done that. I've flown from Liverpool Airport in the UK to the Isle of Man. I've flown from Gatwick to Birmingham. I've flown Gatwick to Glasgow. I've yet to fly into mainland Europe. That's the next step. And people actually on the stream wanted me to fly over to Norway, Sweden, Denmark. And that's the beauty of this game, is you can do that. It's all in there. You just construct a flight plan and do it. And obviously, as I get better, I'm going to crank up the realism more and more. So, let's turn the engine off a second. It's so loud. Here we are. We are on our next waypoint, which is 35 nautical miles away. It's not drawing it for some reason. Why are you not drawing it, game? Come on, Garmin. There we go. So you can see there's a runway here. That kind of green, these green things here, they're approach vectors for runways. So obviously there's a runway here running east-west, and that would be one landing or takeoff point. Obviously the runways come in a particular direction, and they switch it around depending on the wind, because it's always better to take off and land into a wind than away from a wind with a wind behind you. You don't want that. And that's got a lot to do with flight speed and airspeed. And you get more, if you're flying into a wind, you get more air over the wing for any given ground speed. So they tend to switch it around whenever the wind moves. But obviously a crosswind they can't do much about. And crosswinds are particularly difficult to land with. A strong crosswind would mean you're messing around with the rudder quite a bit. That's the rudder there, you see. Which will steer the aircraft left and right. It's a bit like having a steering wheel, the rudder. It's just got to go left and right. When you're taxiing on the ground, that's exactly what it does. Just going to disable that, because I want to have a look at what's underneath us. So there's that runway. You see? The runway here is that runway here. And you can see they've actually got 3 landing strips. Actually, that looks like the main runway, but they could use 3 different strips there. And obviously they've got a vector set today of this one. It's pretty good though, isn't it? It's quite a nice looking aircraft as well. I like this kind of gold trim around the windscreen. Or the windshield. It looks very executive with this kind of shiny windows. The Learjet 45. It's some kind of special anniversary edition. Anniversary paint job, I think, is what it is. Oh, what's that down there? Oh, wow, look at that. We've actually got all the rivers as well. If I could work out where we were. Let's see, what's our... I was wondering if it gave us our latitude and longitude. And you can actually check which river that was. If I had to have a guess, probably a very bad guess, given where we are. River Avon, maybe. Maybe. Certainly don't quote me on that. We're over the Midlands, where we are. This is what they call the Midlands in the UK. Flying, as you can see our waypoint here, it's taking us here, then we're going to be landing into Birmingham International. Quite a big airport, Birmingham. 4 minutes until we reach the waypoint, and then we'll be 23 nautical miles. So once we reach this waypoint here, we're going to start tuning into the ILS, the instrument landing system of the runway, which will give us our correct approach vector for coming into Birmingham. Just look at this, guys. Magnificent. How do we zoom out? I'd love to be able to zoom out right now. I'm just going to sit there and look at that. I could just look at that all day. Sunset is probably equally spectacular. That is a very detailed ground scenery. This scenery packs that I purchased cost me quite a few quid, actually. Message me if you want to know how much. They're not cheap though. I mean, you thought dropping expansions on Train Sim was heavy going. This is a whole different level. There's people I speak to who've been helping me out have dropped £3,000 in stuff for this game. £3,000. But if you're into this and this is your hobby, it's nothing really. It's no different to somebody having a train set at home, you know, like a Hornby train set, and spending £3,000 in stuff and just converting the attic and making massive train sets and trains and signals and all that. It's no different really. Whatever your passion is, whatever your hobby is, will take your money ultimately, and that's what this is. Let's get back in the cockpit 1 second. And so at the point where we press nav 1, it's going to tune that navigation in. What we will then do, let's turn the sound off. What we'll then do when we've got that tuned in is we'll take this off GPS and put it on nav. We'll click that onto approach, and essentially what it will do then, it will tell the autopilot to line us up with the runway. So it will get a position on our runway vector so that we kind of get positioned to come into the runway at the right point. And when we get the runway in sight, I'm going to turn autopilot off and I'm going to land it manually. Now this is only the second time I'll be landing this aircraft, so it could go horribly wrong. But hopefully not. We shall see. I'll keep jumping outside just to get a bit of peace from that engine. Funnily enough, the engines are quieter behind them than they are when you're in the cockpit. So each aircraft has completely different acoustics. I noticed the Comet aircraft is seriously loud. But when you get in a 737, lovely and quiet. Lovely and quiet. So, how far are we away? Okay, we're about to change now onto... Yeah, we're going in from WP1 in 4 nautical miles. And we'll be turning into our approach into Birmingham. Which is cool. Then you'll see me attempt to land this thing. So we should be able to zoom in a touch now. There we go. So there's obviously another runway here. I think, from my geography knowledge, when I lived in Birmingham, lived in the Midlands for a while, I think that's East Midlands Airport, and this is Birmingham International, I think. There we go. EGBB line up. Okay, so now we're going to start... sorry. Just getting used to my cameras. We're going to turn... You can see the cockpit shaking around. We're getting into some turbulence now. A bit difficult when you're trying to press buttons like that. So we're going to lock nav 1 in. And I'm going to turn off GPS. That's nav 1 basically. I'm going to switch it to approach. So what it's going to do now is... I'm going to turn the speed down as well. Bring the speed down to sort of 200 or so. Like that. You can see the turbulence and the rain now as we're descending through the clouds. I'm not sure if I can turn off that nav 1 or not. This is very hard trying to press buttons when the camera's moving around. Crap. I'm pressing all kinds of buttons. Oh dear. Right, so we're flying over East Midlands. You can see the lightning. We've actually got some lightning, I think, going on. Look at that. The clouds underneath us, it's a bit of a storm, actually. So, because the difficulty's cranked up a little bit, as we're descending through the storm clouds, the rain clouds, when we get underneath I expect it'll be raining. Okay, that's really annoying. I'm going to try and turn that off. Right, let's turn that off. I'm hoping that's going to still lock us on. But we'll soon find out. Okay, we are 13 nautical miles. I'm going to start my approach now. So I'm going to bring the speed right down. to about 170 or so. Being made a little bit more difficult because the cockpit's moving around. Now, vertical speed. We are very high at the moment. And 9 nautical miles away. I think we're going to screw this up, actually. I think we're way too high. Okay, I am going to disable the autopilot. And put the gear down. Take manual control and bring us right down because we are way too high. I think my vertical speed wasn't set correctly. And because I've never flown this plane much, I don't know how to set that. So I'm just going to bring us down out of the clouds because we are stupidly high right now. And I don't think that the autopilot is going to do it correctly. There we go. Now we're down to 7,000. This is not a pretty landing, guys. Not a pretty landing. In fact, I think we've overshot. I'm pretty certain we've overshot the runway. Because I've gone too high. So, yeah, there it is. Overshot the runway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bank. It's not a problem. I'm going to bank around, come back for my approach again. It's a learning curve with this plane. If I'd have flown a 737, I could have changed my vertical speed, no problem. It's a horrible day as well, an absolutely horrible day. So I'm going to do a loop, basically. Let's just level this off now.
Pull up.
Pull up, okay. There we go. As you can see, the weather's not nice in Birmingham right now. Oh, when we're below the clouds, all of a sudden it's gone beautiful.
Don't sink.
Don't sink, apparently. I'll try not to sink. I shall certainly try not to sink this aircraft. My altitude is horribly low. Okay, so you can see where we are. I'm going to try and climb back up a little bit. Get back up to about 3,000, 4,000 or so. Just adjusting the flaps. So, okay, so I overshot this runway. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fly back that way, turn around and come back in for another approach. That's my current plan. So I'm going to fly parallel, plan to about 4,000 and fly parallel to the runway. We're not allowed to fly past and land the other way because that is the airport is not landing that way today, if you like. And this being a sim, we're going to obey the rules. So we're back up to 3,000. We've got a nice steady altitude climb. Heading of 150 approximately should do it. There we go. I'm just going to level it off for about 4,000 now. So because I can't see the horizon because of all the cloud, that's where the attitude indicator really comes in handy. You rely on that, basically. Trying to hold speed at about 170, 180. You can see the speed down here juddering around as we go through this turbulence. Now what I should do is lock onto Birmingham approach radio. Request flight following. Just turn back to the right slightly. So while I'm doing this, I'm reading, watching my speed and my heading, and my altitude, which appears to be climbing. Because the autopilot is off, I'm having to do it manually, and flying through the cloud is quite difficult, shall we say. That's what it looks like on the outside. The landing gear's down, the flaps are down, you can see the flaps here. But you can see the turbulence is just huge. Right, so we've got to get past the runway approach. If I have a look how far it is. Oh, we've missed all of our vector now, so... Nearest airport list, Birmingham. Tune into Birmingham Tower. Request full stop landing.
Birmingham Tower, Bombardier, November 45, Lima Romeo, 9 miles, Southwest Delta, to land. Bombardier, November 45, Lima Romeo, Birmingham Tower. Fly straight in, runway 33, UNC, 9er, 8, 9er.
Knowledge. Once it's flying runway 33, which is not going to happen, I don't think. This is some grim weather, guys. I've ever flown in weather quite this bad before. Okay, so we should be about ready to turn around now and begin our approach. And hopefully I can do a little bit better this time. So I'm just going to start turning. Like that. And keep our eye on things here. Now you got to be careful because as you turn an aircraft, you start to lose altitude. So you just need to pull back slightly on the yoke to bring you up. I think we're at what's our altitude there? 3,400. That's low enough. Don't want to go any lower than that right now. This is some crazy weather going on. Okay, I'm just using my GPS to bring us around here. That's a runway. You see the ILS lights there? That's not our runway. That's the East Midlands Airport one. We've just got landing clearance. Which is always nice. Okay, we should get a runway in sight shortly. I'm not using the autopilot, I'm doing it all manually. You can see how hardcore this thing can get. And this very likely will go horribly wrong, but I'm going to give it a go, because it's fun. So I'm going to reduce the speed, put the flaps up a little bit more. Oh, according to this, it's over there. I don't have a visual on it yet. Where's the runway? To the right, apparently. I'm having trouble spotting the runway. There it is. Yay! Runway in sight. I don't know how to land via instrumentation at the moment, so I need the visual approach. In theory, you can land an aircraft without being able to see anything. Now, you see the red lights? That means I'm too low. So I'm putting flaps down to maximum now. But that's what the red lights mean. It means I'm too low. What I'm looking for, there's 4 lights. I'm looking for 2 red and 2 yellow. And that means that I'm coming in at the right angle, which is my approach angle. Because it's not just direction, of course. You've got the height aspect as well to deal with. Just checking my GPS. Okay, there we go. We've got yellow lights now, so we've got a good glide path coming in. Now, if I can just zoom a little bit. No, I can't zoom, apparently. I think we're good at the moment. You can see the turbulence is making it difficult. This is a thing called EZDok as well, which is the thing that's moving the camera around. Again, this doesn't come by default, but I think you'll agree, in turbulence like this, it's extremely realistic. So as we get near the ground, I'll have to obviously bring the throttle down. Approach vector's not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, we're lined up. It's just a matter of getting our glide path now. I did one landing where it was a bloody crane on the descent and just missed the crane. Crazy. So the gear's down, flaps are down. This is where you'd be going through checklists basically with your co-pilot. So I need to just reduce the throttle a little bit now. Too low, you see that? Red lights. Okay, I need to get down, need to get down. And oh, this is difficult. Now reverse thrust and hit the brakes and hope that I'm not going too quickly. Turn the rudder. Oh my life. Stop! Wow, that we were coming in too quick then. I think 170 was just a little bit too quick. However, any landing that you can walk away from is a good landing. Phew. Turn next taxiway, there we go. Whew. Wow. So now we need to get to ground. So we nudge the ground handoff. Tune to ground. So I'm going to request a taxi to the gates. Stay here a second. Welcome to Birmingham. Taxi clearance, turn on progressive taxi. So there you go, that's why I stopped. You can see where our taxi route has been shown now. Just to the right, which is this way. Wow, guys. We are at Birmingham International and I'm just taxiing out. So let's turn off all this stuff here. We don't need any of this turned on now. And of course I can put the flaps back on if I show you. That's the flaps going back up to normal. So I don't know how familiar you are with aircraft, but the flaps give you extra lift at the expense of drag. So they're great when you're taking off or landing because you need extra lift. But as soon as you get airborne or as soon as you land, you put the flaps back to the normal settings. Okay, so we're just taxiing around now. As you can see, just get rid of that. And that was a very interesting flight. We took the Learjet out of Gatwick or Heathrow, I'm not sure which one. And we are now at Birmingham International. Again, you can actually buy scenery packs for different airports. And they give you some amazingly detailed airports to land at. I mean, seriously. But for now, I'm quite content to just be learning how to fly. I think the next step for me is to buy a decent aircraft, like a decent 737 or something, and just stick to it. Just stick to one aircraft and learn it really well. And then just, you know, learn all the rest of the stuff. There's a massive learning curve with this stuff. Not just getting set up with Flight Sim, but, you know, just learning how to fly. It is not for everybody. It is definitely not for the faint-hearted. But if you want a challenge, you're up for a challenge, then it's absolutely wonderful. As you can see the world. See some amazing weather patterns, great scenery, flying the world's best aircraft. You can even get different liveries for the planes as well. For the aircraft, they have different skin packs, like you can get Virgin Atlantics and you know, whatever your favourite happens to be. Pretty certain that, and I think you can probably make your own as well. And you don't just have to buy. There's plenty of free stuff available. There's plenty of free texture packs and free cloud packs and free liveries for different aircraft. But the paid-for professional ones tend to be the most detailed, obviously. Tend to be the most researched. One key indicator is you see all these buttons around here. You know, when I move across the mouse across here, you can see these buttons are not active. Only some of them will actually change to a clickable mouse. And you'll find that on the paid aircraft, a lot of the buttons will work, but then you'll have a manual that will come with it that will tell you how to start the aircraft. Because starting an aircraft from cold is that there's a certain procedure you have to go through. Certainly with pilots, there's a checklist for everything to make sure that nothing is forgotten. You know, there's an engine startup procedure, a checklist that you go through. There's a pre-flight set of checks that you go through. Landing, there's more checks that you go through. It's quite funny, and that makes sure that you don't forget to, for example, turn on the seatbelt sign like I did. I totally forgot to turn that on. So now we're coming into the airport. I think it's time for seatbelts to go off. I think the passengers that are in the back, those that have not thrown up yet, are free to now take their seatbelts off and start to pack their bag. We're travelling at a safe speed. Look at that. You can see our route there. We're going to be turning left and looping around in a second. You see the rudder on the tail of the plane there? It's turning us around. Not many of the planes here today. Normally there are quite a few more. But you can get a feel for the fact that the weather simulation was spot on, yeah? And the sun came. I decided to take off at dawn. So as we were flying, the sun came up and you can see it's daylight now. The simulation is accurate. Now this is the yellow line. This is what you'd want to be on. And if you're actually in a 737, I don't know about this plane, but you can open the door and you can request. You can request that gate there, that's what passengers walk down, you can request it comes over on a 737 because it's big enough. On a plane like this, I think you'd probably just get some ladders. There we go. We are at Birmingham International. Yay! So now you can do whatever. You can go to parking and fueling options, for example. Request taxi to the gates. Taxi to parking, taxi. You can go over and get refueled basically, or you can decide that you want to take off out of a different airport, different runway, sorry, and go somewhere else. It's entirely up to you. As you can see, let's just turn this off a second. You can see I just opened the door. Oh, actually, you don't need a ladder on this aircraft. It's low enough that you can just exit the plane yourself. But yeah, that is Birmingham International. That is Flight Simulator FSX, FS10, Flight Sim 10 as it's called. That was a Learjet. We got ourselves to Birmingham International. What do you think? If you want to see me play it more, I'm planning to stream it as well. I can make more videos as well. If there's something in particular you want to see, particular plane, particular route, particular runway, airport, some scenery, a challenge, whatever, let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, if you want me to play more flight sims as well as train sims and driving games and truck sims and all the other things that I do. Other than that, until the next flight, take care guys, and happy flying.